Mary Conley from MMC Rabbits. I've dealt with Amber in the past, quite a few years. Unfortunately, everything that she posted in this video, and we're going to go ahead and do a point-by-point breakdown, is complete bullshit. So, let's start with that.
Hey, Crazy K. Amber. Come here. We're going to have a talk. Don't you dare come after Azalea and project all your crap onto her. Do you understand me? Everything that you said in that video is an absolute pack of lies.
Azalea Grubb, aka Grubbs Hollow Rabbitry, located in Grand Prairie, Texas, sold malnourished, sick rabbits. There's a huge reason for this call out, so please bear with me. March 22nd, she was at a show. I don't remember what show she was at, and she sold this rabbit and her brother, who at the time were about 4.5 months, and they were both 3.5 pounds. Actually, I think they were 3 pounds 6 ounces, so not even 3.5 pounds.
Amber claims that the rabbits from Grubs were skinny and underweight and had really skinny legs. So let's do some context here. The rabbits that Grubbs sold during that show, or didn't even really sell, she donated them to a 4-H kid. Before they went to their new home, she put them on the tables. The buck in question, that the person, I think I remember, it might have been 3 pounds 6 ounces, won its class. In order for it to have won its class, it would have had to have been a minimum weight of 4 pounds, because they have to be 4 pounds to hit the table as a junior. So at 3 months old, it was 4 pounds. If you look really closely at the pedigree, its parents are 8 and 9 pounds respectively. If it has now has now put another 2 pounds on in the past roughly 2 months, that is about right where it should be. So 6 pounds at 5 months old, when it was 4 pounds at 3 months, is exactly where it should be for a Rex.
Her lines are notorious for reaching 8 to 10 pounds by 6 months.
Also, the point of them being severely underweight and very skinny, not very likely, considering that they both placed very well on the tables, one winning his class. If they were underweight or at all wormy or sickly, the judge would not have placed them first in the class. Now, they may not have had the best baby coats, because Rex notoriously don't have the best baby coats, but that's not what they were being examined for at the show. They would have had their condition weighed a little bit higher than their coat quality as a junior.
The breeder that she sold them to noted in a picture, which isn't very good, and I'm not going to show it because it shows her daughter's whole face, but in the picture you can see how skinny and pencil thin those rabbits' legs are. Her rabbits are notorious for beefy legs. These rabbits were skin and bone.
As far as its legs were really skinny and her lines grow big, you're confusing Rex and Flemish, Amber. Rex are a medium-boned breed similar to New Zealand. And when they're little like that, they're not going to have big, thick legs because they put on muscle before they put on bone. Flemish should have big, thick legs because they're a heavy-boned breed and they put on bone first. So again, you're not talking from experience or knowledge, you're just talking out your ass.
And on top of that, they were extremely skittish. A problem I have faced multiple times with her. Not even a month of having these rabbits.
Steph also just recently received a whole bunch of junior rabbits from Azalea. She received those very recently because Azalea was just down there last weekend, and all of them were in absolutely perfect condition. Azalea has also recently posted videos of some that she held back for her breeding program, who are also in perfect condition. Now we can get back to talking about how you kept your rabbits, and I've never forgiven you for what you did to Tom.
They're already over 6 pounds each, and already not having as much trust issues with humans. The daughter even mentioned when at pickup that the rabbits were disgusting when they smelled, just smelled repulsive. Now we all know that rabbits don't smell pretty, they don't smell like flowers and roses and like perfume, but they're not supposed to smell like a trash can.
Would you like a little reminder of what you tormented my poor baby and how he came back to Azalea because you simply didn't feed it? Because that's what the vet blood work came back as. The vet came back as you simply weren't feeding them. I'm glad you're feeding them now, but how long is it going to last? Last time it only lasted about a year before you had another mental breakdown. And as Steph said, your boyfriend begged them to remove those animals. You've already murdered quite a few guinea pigs by starving them to death. And you've already killed quite a few rabbits by starving them to death. You should not be allowed to have animals because you have too many episodes and you live in a fantasy world. You are not mentally stable enough to be taking care of anything on that farm. So unfortunately, at this point, because it's been a pattern with you, we know it's only a matter of time before you end up killing the ones that you currently have. We can hope that won't be the case, but unfortunately, you're a repeat offender.
Everyone got sippy sippy. I just want to introduce everyone to Magnus the Flemish's brother. This is Tom Jones. This is one of his siblings. So he ended up coming up to my barn to be used in the Party Queen project. I know we're going to give you those toys in a minute. I'm moving you to a better cage. Yes. Yay.
Here's another thing.
Okay, Tom would like these.
Yes, he would like them.
Okay, you're going to get those. You're going to get those. We'll make a big mess first. Good boy. I know you are a good boy. Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom. You're only one of our musicians. Go eat me too. Good boy. I know.
Take that spot so he can be spoiled.
Wow. That's Mr. Tom Jones and his carrier for transport, and we are taking him home to be a pet. Johnson and Carmel are going to be going down to Texas to be example bunnies for 4-H and FFA for the new troop leader, for the new 4-H group leader, and that leaves us a little bit of extra space. So Mr. Tom, Magnus's big brother, is going to be coming home with us. I know it's a little hot today. It's okay. He's super, super sweet. He's super sweet. Yes. So he's going to come home and retire. And then, look at this. This is the chillest rabbit. I'm booping a snoot.
My video of Tom was too long, so I'll try and quick it. Still bloaty belly. I gave him the 2 cups this morning. He'll get 2 more when I feed everyone here in a little bit. He just seems like he's not pushing into me or anything, but he's letting me touch, which is great. He's just not, he's not really like accepting it. It's like he's trying to figure out if it's okay still. A upside view. I can still count his spine and his hip bones and everything. And like, you know, he's just a big butterball normally, and that's just all gone. I'm going to, since he's letting me touch him today, I'm going to pull him out. But yeah, he's thick right here where his ribs are, and then it gets sunk in. And that's just it. And like you've seen at the beginning of the video, his belly's not, it's squishy. He got to disperse everything still. But he's letting me touch him today. So that helps. But he's still eating 4 cups a day.
Where does that make sense? No rabbit that has ever come out of her barn has been skittish. My lines are from her barn. And every single one of mine are lovely, wonderful rabbits. They're not skittish. But guess who was? Tom and Magnus and every other rabbit that came out of your barn that was starving to death. And Magnus isn't even still fully recovered to what he was, because I remember when he was good. He still has issues being handled because of what you did to him.
Why is this important, you may ask? Because this is the same person. Azalea Grubb is the exact same person who 4.5 months ago accused me of malnourishing, withholding feed, and starving all of my animals. And recently, a few of her best friends have come after me and
Maybe we should start asking why all these vets kept pegging her for neglect.
The condition her dog is in. This was back in the almost October, end of September. She's claiming that she's feeding him a whole bunch of rabbit meat, but the only person that was supplying her with rabbits was a single rabbit that went in her freezer, and that was Grubs. Now remember, this has been the past 3 months. She has not had a live litter, so she hasn't had anything she could process for this dog, but she's claiming that she's feeding him 20 pounds of rabbit a week. Where's that rabbit coming from? Because she hasn't clarified that either, and supposedly she doesn't have any other places to get it. So how are you feeding your dog? You're claiming you're feeding your dog, but we all know you haven't had a single litter. And in order for you to produce 20 pounds of rabbit a week, you have to be running a barn with active live litters of at least 2 litters a week at minimum. Running over a course of a rotation of, at best, if we figure this out, you have to have 2 litters every other week or 1 litter a week over the course of 10 weeks. And then you have to rotate your does back out after that 10 weeks. So it really isn't likely that's if you're doing them almost back to back. I mean, it's not really something that's going to happen. I mean, ideally you'd want 24 does and rotate them over a 12-week period, so that by the time your last litter is weaned, you can rebreed the first doe. And that's kind of how you need to cycle it. But she doesn't have that many animals, and she doesn't have that many viable litters.
attacked me for putting down my dog, who, mind you, has only been dead for about 1.5 months, and saying that I starved him to death. Now, many people can attest to this, and I myself called the general manager of Martindale Feed Mill, aka MFM, and they themselves admitted that there was corn and possibly other additives in the feed that I had purchased that was not disclosed, because those same mills are used to process cattle, chicken, sheep feed. They offered me a $60 credit to try and get me to continue buying the feed, which I declined. After I had all of Azalea's rabbits out of my barn, and I only had 3 rabbits, which were mine, not from her lines at all, and once I had switched them over to Big V feeds, which is conveniently what Azalea Grubb feeds, everyone gained weight. Everyone had a beautiful coat, healthy guts, healthy poops.
Now, this is on January 1st. She mentioned, well, I feed a good feed, and the rabbits are still underweight despite being on all these things. And so she's trying to blame the chemicals in the thing. The problem was she did admit later that she wasn't feeding. And even if you're feeding a good feed, if you're not putting them in their bowls, then they can't eat. So at this point on the 1st, when she's finally acknowledging that the rabbits are underweight, Grubbs went and took them, and again, benefit of the doubt, maybe it is a chemical problem. They've had chemical problems before. But she's also backtracked multiple times now. So first she goes back and says, oh, well, there's probably lead or chemicals or something, and they need to get toxicology screening. Grubbs took him, and so they went to Grubbs until she could move him to the carport. Well, a couple days after Grubbs had him, Grubbs took them to the vet. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, well, we got the water tested because my mom has all these conditions. We get it tested monthly, and it says the lead levels are fine. And she kind of went about, because I did read that conversation, because I've seen the screenshots of it, and Amber kind of tries to, brush it off, going, well, that might not be the issue. This is before the results came back. So she was trying to cover her ass then. And then a few days later, when the results came back, and after Grubbs had talked to the vet, and the vet said these rabbits were starved, Grubbs says, I am not returning these. And that was when that came down. And that was around the 6th or the 9th of January. I don't have screenshots of that, so I can't really go there. And then the last thing that we had was again on the 6th. You know, Grubbs lets her know, I just got home from the vet on the 6th with all the buns. All three, you know, basically said F you because they were really not in the mood. They didn't feel good. Jane got the love, but she couldn't touch them, and she's waiting for the test results. Elizabeth wanted to know, what are you testing for? Grubbs go a slew of things. Lost a lot of weight. We need to know why. I took half of the problem children, so she took at least 3 of them to go get tested. Amber goes, a lot. You know, barely alive. So bad I'm going to be buying water from here on out, and I'm moving them to a new location on the property. It's never been touched by chemicals. To give you an idea, Magnus went from 18 to 11 pounds, so she's acknowledging this at this point. And I've been free-feeding pellets and giving Boston oats. You know, thankfully, they're slowly gaining weight back at azaleas. They're gaining weight back at azaleas because she's feeding them. And that was on January 6th. Like I said, between the 6th and the 9th, it came back from the vet with the tests that they were starved. That the test results came back simply starvation. Which is why Grubbs says, I'm not returning them. And that's all the updates that they're going to be getting. The rest of us can get updates for Friends with Grubbs. She's more than happy to let you know what they're doing. I am still beside myself with Tom. But keep in mind, this is the only time that Amber has done it to try to make herself look good. This is a narcissistic trait. This is a psychopathic or some kind of mental illness that's going on here. We're debating whether or not this is some kind of a form of Munchausen by proxy because she's hurting her own animals to get attention. So I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Munchausen. I don't care if she's just simply psychotic. I don't care if she's just simply delusional.
Your rabbits gain weight after you switch feed because you switched feed after we called you out for starving your rabbits to death. You killed multiple rabbits. Even your own boyfriend was calling us, begging us to get you blacklisted from buying rabbits because you were killing them. Do you understand?
And the reason why it's important to share that we both feed the same feed, there's no excuse as to why these rabbits were so thin. They came from your barn to the show, and you sold them like this. Actually, you gave them away for free, which is something you don't do. So why would you sell her these rabbits, a little girl who is trying to branch out into other breeds, into our world, and why would you sell her sick, malnourished stock? And as
Also, the point of them being severely underweight and very skinny, not very likely considering that they both placed very well on the tables, one winning his class. If they were underweight or at all wormy or sickly, the judge would not have placed them first in the class. Now, they may not have had the best baby coats, because Rex notoriously don't have the best baby coats, but that's not what they were being examined for at the show. They would have had their condition weighed a little bit higher than their coat quality as a junior.
Much as I wish I could say that I'm surprised, I am not. Because this is the same person which every single time I'd go over to her house, which was about once a month, to clean her pans, they'd be full all the way to the top. They'd be sloshing out. The feeders would be empty. The waters would be empty. She'd be screaming at her young children under the age of, I want to say 12.
Her pans were full when you got there to help her fill them. Guess what? That's why she asked you to come and help her. So you're going to yell it, you're going to get upset at somebody or call somebody out when they physically needed the assistance and asked you for help to come and do that task because they needed assistance? So you're going to kick somebody for asking for help?
To feed the rabbits, to go water the rabbits. And they clearly don't want any part of it. They don't. She literally screams at them from the top of her lungs. Let's also mention the fact that every time I'd come over to her barn, a rabbit was sick. Specifically, there was this one, his name was Johnny Cash. He was a black otter, broken black otter buck, and he had chronic pastorella, I think is what her vet said. And she refused to cull him because, quote, she had spent too much money on him. There was always a sick rabbit in her barn that she refused to put down, which not only jeopardizes what you're selling to other people, but that jeopardizes my barn. I trusted her. I trusted you, Azalea.
Oh, she wouldn't call Cash. That's funny. I just fed his carcass to my dogs. She wouldn't call him? Okay. That's really funny, since I just fed his carcass to the dogs. He's gone. Because she did the correct thing and she called him. You need to step back. This is ridiculous. And oh, she yells at her kids. What mom doesn't yell at their kids when they're not wanting to do their chores? Trust me, you haven't been there enough, honey, to understand that those kids love those rabbits. They love doing everything with those rabbits. They're so proud of them. Every time I'm there, they're showing me which ones are theirs and taking them out and loving them and feeding them and cleaning them. I have seen all of her kids go out and say, hey, Mom, I got food and water done. Hey, Mom, I cleaned this pan, without being told. But some days are stressful, and some days you lose your temper and you yell. Oh my gosh, it's not the first mom to do that. You really need to seek help. And I don't ever want to hear you trying to put this kind of crap onto somebody else. And selling skinny rabbits to somebody? Absolutely not. There's been enough people in her barn to know that not a single underweight rabbit has ever come out of her barn sold. Ever. She takes in rescues constantly that are in poor condition, that might need some rehab. But those aren't from her. Those are ones that she's trying to help. And they might have a great purpose in life, but they just need more assistance. So she moves them on. But those are not from her lines. Those are ones that she's taken in poor condition. Like the ones that came from your house to her that she had to get through refeeding syndrome because you dang near starved them to death. I am so tired of you trying to get your dopamine fix by trying to start drama. And it ends now. And selling skinny rabbits to somebody? Absolutely not. There's been enough people in her barn to know that not a single underweight rabbit has ever come out of her barn sold. Ever. She takes in rescues constantly that are in poor condition, that might need some rehab. But those aren't from her. Those are ones that she's trying to help. But those are not from her lines.